Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Huron Valley Schools regular board meeting for September 11th, 2023. Could I have a roll call? Acting Secretary, Ms. Cotter.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Pastana is not here today. Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Here.
Mr. Dimick.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan also is absent tonight. Mrs. Dodd.
Here.
Ms. Cotter is here. Mr. Wiseman.
Here.
We certainly do have a forum.
Thank you very much. Could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion made by Member Dodd. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Member Dimick. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Dodd.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, and Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Once again, I would like to thank everyone for attending the Huron Valley Board of Education meeting tonight. We welcome our Huron Valley community's input and comments. A public comment segment will be available for 15 minutes, which include both action and non-action items during Section 3 of our agenda. Additional comments will take place during Section 7 of the agenda unless the comments are related to an item that will be voted on. If you have any comments regarding agenda or non-agenda items, please fill out the required information that is over by the door and turn them in to Ms. Cadell, and you'll be recognized appropriately. During that time, participants will have 3 minutes to present their comments when recognized by myself, and we'll follow policy that is written as it relates to comments at board meetings. So, with that, items from the board president, I just have two, actually. One, I know Dr. Salah will go into greater detail, but I do want to recognize and show our board's appreciation for everyone that made the 23-24 school year start off in such a manner that I believe everyone is very proud of. It went very smoothly. Our kiddos were picked up with those yellow buses in a timely fashion, and I know that the opening day was met with a lot of excitement, not only by our students but all of our staff, and I really, really, truly appreciate all the hard work that was done during the summer to prepare our schools. So I know Dr. Salah will present that, and we'll go into greater detail, but I do want to recognize everyone that makes up the Huron Valley family. Today is September 11th, 2023. And it goes without saying that it is a day that has had an effect on not only our community, but our state, our United States, and the world. Patriots Day is a United States national observance that honors the memory of those who lost their lives in the September 11th, 2001 attacks. It was first observed in 2002 after the proclamation by the President George W. Bush, and has been honored or has been proclaimed annually since 2021, and actually for the last 21 years. And then it was rededicated in 2009 for President Barack Obama as Patriots Day and National Day of Service. I know if you had an opportunity to visit our social media, our schools have really embraced that National Day of Service, and I know that some board members will highlight some of those things. But also today, we'd like to remember all the heroes that were forged in the hours and days and years that followed that terrible morning of September 11, 2001. Ordinary Americans who, amidst the terror, smoke, and flames, demonstrated extraordinary courage and selflessness. Together, their bravery helped prove to our nation and the world that what those terrorists must hope for was to wound could never be broken, the character of our nation. In honor of those lives we lost 22 years ago, and in honor of all the heroes who have given their whole souls to the cause of the nation every moment since, may today not be only observed with solemn remembrance, but also with renewal and resolve. At this point in time, I'd like to take a moment to take a moment in honoring and observing this day with a moment of silence in reflection. So if you could join me with that. Thank you very much. Together, may we continue to demonstrate that those rights and freedoms that those terrorists sought to destroy on September 11, 2001 remain unwavering, strengthened by generations of Americans who have dared all and risked all to defend, protect, and preserve our democracy. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to turn it over to recognition here on Valley Highlights. Dr. Slaa, do we have anything?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Rothler to the microphone for the highlights this evening.
Good evening. There is no doubt, as Mr. Wiseman stated, that the first week of school is one of the most exciting times. As we step into a new school year, we embark on a journey of growth, discovery, and endless possibilities. And as the Central Office Administration team visited schools across the districts to welcome students and staff on their first day of class, there is no doubt we felt the energy as well. From our wide-eyed and nervous junior kindergartner and kindergarten students to our high school seniors, as they experienced the first of many memories of their final year with their senior sunrise. Let's take a look.
Rose, do you need a couple minutes? Yeah. Well, we're sitting in this wonderful new room that's been updated as part of our 2019 bond. Thank you to our taxpayers and our community members out there. But as you can imagine, with any new project comes some hiccups, and so we are having some technical difficulties trying to get the sound working. This is our very first meeting in this room. So we just show our technology team a little bit of grace and give them an opportunity to try to get that moving. And once we get it moving, I promise it will be must-see TV, and we will get it up for those who are ready. So, Mr. President, if you'd like, I can continue on.
No,
Mr.
let's go
Sheriff?
ahead. I know that we have the back-to-school highlights, and we absolutely want to celebrate that. Maybe at this point in time, we can move down to superintendent's communication. You can start off with introducing some key people that are joining us in our community.
Yes, I can do that. Thank you. Before I do, just a couple things. One, I wanted to, again, welcome back all of our students. It was really exciting last week to see our buildings flooded with smiling faces all the way from early childhood all the way up to our adult transition program. Really exciting to feel the energy as students walked into the buildings. It was particularly cool to see our high school kids walk into the building because they were seeing all this new construction for the first time. And they're like, wow, look at that, and wow, look at that. So It was a lot like the elementary kiddos over the last couple of years, but it was really exciting to see this year in particular. I do have to give a shout out to our buildings look fantastic. While at the high schools, we still have some work that's ongoing. The halls were cleaned, the walls were cleaned, everything was ready to roll. Our custodial department did an excellent job. You mentioned those big yellow buses. I have to tell you, I've been doing this for a long time, and almost every year we have some sort of where did that kindergartner go? Which bus do they get on? And that didn't happen this year. I always carve out a couple of extra hours on the first. I stay until usually closer to 5:36, 6:30, because I just never know what's going to happen on that first week of school. But you knock on wood, we did not have any issues like that. So super excited about that as well. Other couple of promising trends. I mean, while we don't have obviously our official count day data yet, I'm really pleased with the enrollment that we're seeing. We won't know the final numbers, and we tend to lose some kids here and there up through the first count. But I'm cautiously optimistic. We're definitely looking pretty good. And then finally, I think it's almost a small miracle, but we have at this point, we believe, two vacancies as it relates to professional staff. We have one at the early childhood, and we have one social work. I think that is just a testament to the fact that Huron Valley is a destination school district. People want to live here, they want to work here, they want to raise their families here, they want to retire here. It's a wonderful community. We're very blessed and fortunate to work with the people that we work with. We were able to negotiate a very good contract with our HVEA, and I believe that has helped in attracting folks to the Huron Valley schools. And I will tell you, superintendents across the county, we're always having conversations about what your staffing looks like. And we are actually faring very, very well, if not better than 95% of other districts. So great job to our HR department and our business and operations department, and certainly our TLT department for all the work that went into kicking off our first week of the school year. So along that same staffing theme, I do have a few folks that I'd like to introduce this evening. And these are some of our newest administrative hires to the district. You see them there, sitting there, just nervous and on bating breath. I'd like to start out with John Oro. He's our new supervisor of maintenance. John is an experienced professional in the facilities management, operations management, construction, and project management. John has spent many years as a construction manager, handling residential multifamily construction before becoming a general contractor working in the commercial field. Most recently, he spent 8 years as a facilities manager for Live Nation Entertainment, managing a portfolio of properties in the Detroit area. I will tell you, we have tested John's skills in just a few short months, from HVAC failures at multiple buildings to power outages, which caused literally a lake being formed at Lakeland High School and flooding our new construction a week before school started, to having to move our IA actually upstairs because they were already in session. He's really done a fantastic job stepping in and tackling challenges as they've arisen. And so, John, we are just so pleased to welcome you to the Huron Valley family. Really is a family, and you and I have had a couple conversations that it does feel like that from the get-go. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite John to the microphone. If we can give John a nice round of applause. Welcome to the team, John. John, if you'd like to share any thoughts with the board this evening.
Thank you, Dr.
I know they have a list of questions for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've just completed my 3rd month here working in the district. It's been an exciting 3 months, but I enjoy the work. I enjoy the challenges that are being presented. I look forward to working with all staff, students, finishing to meet everybody, and look forward to what challenges come in the future.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next up, I have Chris Carlson, who is no stranger to Lakeland High School. Chris is the newest member of our administrative team at Lakeland High School. I think he's actually the newest member to our administrative team, period, because Jillian was hired just slightly before Chris. Chris has been an educator for 23 years. 16 of those have been with the Huron Valley Schools. He's taught 12 years, 4 at Oak Valley, the remainder at Lakeland High School. Chris, I think many of you know Chris that are here and those who are on the board. Chris has also been a coach, both boys and girls tennis as well as girls golf. Chris earned his bachelor's degree from Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee. He earned a master's of teaching from the same university, Lee University in Cleveland. He earned his educational specialist degree in leadership from Oakland University, and also just a couple of years ago completed his PhD in educational leadership from the University of Cumberland. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Chris to the administrative team and invite him to the podium to make a few comments.
Thank you, Dr. Slaw. Thank you, Board. I'm humbled and honored to be a new leader in Huron Valley, and just been a great experience so far. I've been going for about a half a month now. Definitely very different from teaching, but I'm enjoying it a lot. I love it. It's definitely a little bit more work, that's for sure. As Dr. Slaw said, I've been in Huron Valley for about the last 12 years. 13 years, and I just love this place. I love this school district. I love everything the school district stands for, their values, and I couldn't be any happier. I look forward, though, in the future to implementing an innovative programming, social emotional support, safety and security. I know those are 3 big things that will be going forth in Huron Valley, and I look forward to being a part of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to the team. Now, Jillian is going to have 30 seconds more seniority than Chris. She's gonna be able to hold that over his head the whole time that they are assistant principals together. Jillian Haney, assistant principal at Lakeland High School. It's my pleasure to introduce her to the community and the board as well. She's been a dedicated educator and leader for the past 10 years, just continuously challenging herself to do better, to know more. She has served as a middle school and elementary co-teacher, elementary resource room teacher, interim assistant principal, as well as a middle school assistant principal. She has spent just over 8 years as a special education teacher before moving into administration. She has her bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University, and she has her master's degree from Marygrove College in educational leadership. We're really excited to welcome Jillian to the district. This is her first foray with the Huron Valley Schools, and she's fitting in beautifully. And I know she's working really well with Libby, their fearless leader, sitting next to them. And I know they're just going to make a great team. So Jillian, I would invite you to the microphone.
Thank you, Dr. Slaw. Thank you so much for this welcome. This has been my impression the entire time I've been here for the last couple of months, as everybody has been so welcoming and friendly, so I really greatly appreciate that. I have already loved working with my team at Lakeland, and I know it's going to be a great year. Looking forward to getting to know our students and getting really involved in the community. That's super important to me, especially as a new member to our community. I really want to get involved and learn about our families and their interests and things like that as well. Huge advocate for PBIS and SEL. Those are huge passions of mine, so I'm looking forward to building that initiative that I know we have as a district this year and building that in our school. I think that's super important for our teachers as well as our students. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jillian. Welcome to the team. Really excited to have you here.
Well, before you go on, I'm sure that board members might have about 1 or 2 questions to ask our new administrators, to put them on the spot to see how they handle themselves under pressure. We did the same thing with Libby, so I would think that we would do the same thing for our assistant principals. Oh, come on, guys. You got one? All right, Lindsay.
No, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. I just want to thank our selection team. I think you did a good job, and I've heard some things over about Lakeland, and I'm glad you were both selected to be part of that team. Libby's done an excellent job, and I know working with her, you'll be quite a team over there. So welcome to both of you. And is John back there too? And John, I want to say welcome to you to Huron Valley too. Good to have you all.
Well, you're very nice. Yeah. Anything else? I too would, on behalf of the rest of the board, like to welcome you again to Huron Valley. You absolutely made the right choice to become administrators. What an outstanding team we have at Lakeland, and how we're all looking forward to the great things that have occurred in the past at Lakeland and will continue and even grow even greater as long as we don't continue to be flooded. I think that brings us back to John. John, congratulations as it relates to you being part of our team. We refer to our entire team as the educational instructional team, and the role that you play in maintenance is extraordinarily important for the performance and for the opportunity for our children to excel. When you're part of the Huron Valley team, you're more than just maintenance. You're providing that environment for our students to succeed. So I appreciate the efforts that you've already made to make certain that our students have an environment that they will exceed in, and our teachers have the tools that are necessary for them to provide the opportunities for our students. So I want to say thank you to you, and you absolutely made it the right choice to be part of our maintenance team, because it's more than just maintenance in Huron Valley. You're part of the educational team. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it back. Amy?
I was actually just going to be funny and ask if perhaps Libby had orchestrated the flood so the three of you could learn a little bit about team building. But apparently she did not. I just want to say, but I am going to say welcome as a parent of Lakeland students, well, a student now and soon to be a student next year. I'm excited to have this team of people. I know that you have a passion for our students, and I'm really appreciative of that. To maintenance, there's really no replacement. It seems like our district is huge, and there will always be work for you. So welcome aboard, and put your tennis shoes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Dr. Slav?
Thank you. I have one final item this evening under superintendent comments. So I wanted to just do a quick overview / debrief on our strategic plan 2.0 meeting. Many of you who have been tuned in to some of the day-to-day of the school district, and certainly tuning into board meetings over the last year or so, would already know that last year, around the same time, actually, we began a journey to adopting our 5-year strategic plan. Roughly 70 people, just over that, came together, divided into 5 different committees, focusing on 5 areas of essential focus for us as a school district. 2 of which I'm going to spend a little more time on this evening, which includes innovative programs and resources and infrastructure, or in other words, building utilization, the number of buildings that we have based on our current enrollment. That plan was a labor of love. A lot of great thinking was brought to the table from a multitude of different stakeholders, including parents and elementary staff and secondary staff and administration. A lot of thought-provoking discussions and conversations, and ultimately the board liked the direction we were heading, and they adopted that 5-year plan. 2 specific goals that really required some additional time and energy to study thoughtfully and be prepared as we move forward with this work were goal number 1, which is around innovative programs, and goal number 2, which relates to, as I mentioned, resources and infrastructure. We've had 2 meetings of what we're calling the Strategic Plan 2.0. This group is made up of roughly 50 individuals. Again, it includes students, it includes parents, it includes teachers, it includes administrators, and it includes members of our Board of Education. We met at the end of June, and that meeting was more so to talk about process, meaning the how this work would unfold over the course of the next several months. And the way that each subsequent meeting is going to be organized is we will hear two presentations at each meeting. One will be from our TLT department, and the other will be from Plant Moran Cressa, who is the third-party entity that we hired to do a facility study, an enrollment study, and really provide that third-party expertise that we do not necessarily have internally to help the committee make some final recommendations to the board as it relates to our overall footprint, as it relates to our current district configuration, as it relates to any potential conversations related to redistricting. I've shared over and over again that there have been no decisions related to the elements of this strategic plan 2.0. So this most recent meeting we had on August 31st, we heard a presentation from Mr. Tavernier as well as Dr. Nemeth related to the potential for expanding some gifted and talented, that's okay, it happens to all of us, related to some potential expansion of gifted and talented offerings for students. We do, as a district, I feel like we do a really outstanding job intervening when students may perhaps be struggling. I think we actually do quite a good job for students that I would say fall in the category of maybe they've gotten it, but they could go a little further. Where we need to really sort of sharpen our pencil a little bit more is kiddos that are scoring in the 99th percentile on all measures. Their teachers are observing them perhaps to be bored in the class because they've mastered the content, and we need to go even deeper. So it's really a whole systems approach. I mean, we're always looking at intervention. We're always looking at Tier 1 plus, but this added piece of gifted and talented is something that we haven't really tackled as a school district to the degree that we're looking at it now. So that was the first part of that presentation. The second was related to enrollment data at the elementary, middle, and high school, as well as our early childhood center. I felt like the information that was provided was extraordinarily helpful. Frankly, it was different than what I initially had expected we would see, because you can imagine as superintendent, I look at enrollment data all the time, and I look at enrollment data from one year to the next, and we use two different entities, Middle Cities and Stanford, to help us project out what enrollment might be. But Plant Moran Cressa has access to even greater data points, and they're actually able to determine based on where our residents show students as well as construction trends into the future, what our enrollment looks like with a little bit more certainty. And the data looks better than what I had anticipated. If you have an opportunity, both of those videos are actually posted online as of 2 p.m. This afternoon. The enrollment presentation had 33 views, and the talented and gifted presentation had 22 views. The big takeaway for me was in 5 years from now, projections look like we're going to be closer to the 7,800, maybe 7,750 in terms of students, 7,750 or 7,800. Initially, I thought we were going to be closer to 7,200. So that obviously paints a different picture for us in terms of how we want to think about this work and the strategic planning. So a lot more to come. But I said from the beginning that after each one of those meetings, I will be coming out with a video providing a high-level overview, similar to what I'm doing right now. And we will be posting any presentations that Plant Moran Cressa or our TLT department delivers. And we're doing that because we want to ensure that everybody has the same information and has an opportunity to really process through and know where we're headed. Nobody's interested in any surprises here, but we do have some work to do on this front. And what's exciting about it is by doing this work, we're going to be able to do things related to innovative programs. Because those resources, instead of being spent on brick and mortar, can be spent on students, and that's where our focus needs to be. One of the talking points shared by Plant Moran Cressa, and this is really an eye-opening talking point for me, was every square foot of unused space is approximately $8 to $10. So if you take a building that's 100,000 square feet and it's only 65% capacity, that 35% of square footage, it's $8 to $10 per square foot that we're expending on heating and cooling, on brick and mortar, that we could be spending on students. And that's where I want us to spend our money, is on students and programs, and that's what we do. That's what this is about. It's about kids. So I think that is all I had. Mr. Wiseman, if you wouldn't mind, I know our tech team is still working.
Okay.
I tried to talk as long as I could to give them some time to show our video, but I'll write a note here on my page, and I'll let you know when we're ready, and whenever it's convenient for you, as the chairperson of the board meeting, we can watch that.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll just go ahead and move on. I do not believe at this point in time, because it's so early in the school year, that we have any student leadership reports. Is that correct? Okay. Next, association communication. Ms. Hollander?
Good evening. I'm very excited to be here at the beginning of a brand new school year. 3 weeks ago, we welcomed 30 new hires to our district during new educator orientation. Our agenda for those 2 days was jam-packed with curriculum information, learning about our English language learners, hearing about MTSS, our multi-tiered system of supports, and lots of general Huron Valley information that they need to know. The energy in the room was positive, even when the air conditioner did its best on those very hot days and the room got hotter by the minute. Some of those new educators are starting their very first year in education, and others are coming from surrounding districts with many years of experience behind them. Regardless of how many years of experience they had, those 2 orientation days were filled with excitement, learning, laughter, and a little anxiety too. I look forward to us introducing you to all of our new hires on October 16th, when they will be honored at the board meeting. Last week, I was in and out of all 16 of our schools and had the privilege of talking with many educators throughout the week. I learned about summer trips, lots of campfires and s'mores, and received a lot of good book recommendations from those who spent their time on their back porches. I also listened to people's hopes and dreams for the school year. Overall, there was a positive vibe across the valley, alongside some significant and concerning typical building things that happen at the beginning of the year. Taking the time to listen to our educators is vital, as they are the boots on the ground and have important knowledge that we need to hear from them. So as we begin the 23-24 school year, I have hope for an incredible year. Our staff is ready. Our educators are ready. Our students are definitely ready. So here we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, board correspondence. Acting Secretary Cotter, do we have any correspondence?
No, I didn't find any correspondence to
Okay,
share.
Thank you. Treasurer Grzymkowski, Treasurer's
this
report?
evening.
Nothing tonight. Next, we have reports from board committees. I'll start off with the Executive Committee meeting minutes. Our meeting was held on September 1st, 2023. The location was the Huron Valley Administration Building. The meeting was called to order at 9:15 a.m. Present were myself, Member Dodd, Member Pastana, Dr. Slah, Barb Rothler, and Jeanette Winger, and Heather Cadell. There were no public comments. The regular agenda for tonight was discussed, and we reviewed the agenda as presented. Safety and security update, Barb presented the biographies of the Florida Safety Team security officers that will be working in our buildings for the 23-24 school year. Jeanette provided us and discussed current HVS staffing levels. She highlighted the 54 new hires, and she also discussed the current openings and needs within the district. Barb also presented the ambassador letter that will be sent to each of the schools to introduce the 23-24 board ambassadors for each building. Just as a sidebar, each Board of Education member has buildings that they are the ambassadors to, and I signed a letter as a form of introduction and for our building administrators to know who their ambassadors were. You've been properly introduced, and you can continue that dialogue in any way that you wish to into the future. Play a key role, and it's really an opportunity for not only for you to be introduced, but really for the administrators to know who you are and who has been assigned to those buildings so that they can invite you to a variety of events that might be occurring in their buildings. Our leadership management team, Dr. Sloss shared a presentation that was presented to them on August 18th at the retreat. We had a discussion as it relates to the strategic plan that Dr. Salah just presented, and we also had a board study session debrief. The committee discussed the August 30th, 2023 board work study session around understanding assessments that were presented by Dr. Salah. There was a lot of positive feedback from the committee regarding the class and the use of assessments to track student growth from the Huron Valley schools. Dr. Salah is tonight going to, Dr. Salah presented to us administrative guidelines, 1000 series, which are referenced in the current board policies, and invited the committee to review and ask any questions. Dr. Salah also shared a draft of the 23-24 superintendent's goals that he'll be presenting tonight. The meeting was adjourned on at 11:45, and we have another meeting set up, and I believe that date is September 22nd, 2023 at 9:15 at the administrative offices. With that, TLT committee.
The TLT committee met on August 29th at the administration building. The meeting was called to order at 4:30 in the afternoon. Present was Chair Pastana, Member Dimick, and alternate member Mr. Wiseman, as well as myself, Dr. Salah, Dr. Nemeth, Ms. Bjorkman, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Parkinson, Mr. Wasink, and Ms. Horowitz. We had no public comment. Regular agenda items. The first one was PLC and Collaborative Inquiry Framework. I provided an update to the committee on our professional learning communities and our Collaborative Inquiry Framework, which is used in all of our schools. The weekly PLC meetings support our day-to-day instructional activities for our teachers, and our Collaborative Inquiry provides really a focus on our larger problems of practice over the course of a full school year. As we began the 23-24 school year, all of our faculty had an opportunity to review those frameworks and recommitment for our systems approach this year to support teaching and learning. We had a brief overview of our new teacher orientation program last week, or the week prior to our meeting. The new teacher orientation program offered our newest educators an overview of many systems and support available to all staff. Our participants were able to build time with relationships with one another. They met many, if not all of our administrators, and many of our board members I know also had an opportunity to attend a part of our new teacher orientation. So just special thanks to our teacher leaders and Ms. Hollander in the audience here tonight just for leading that work and really welcoming all of our new teachers to Huron Valley. Next up, we had a presentation on our Math and Read 180 pilot. During the 2022-23 school year, the district formed a secondary MTSS task force to review Tier 2 academic intervention programs and the long-term impact those programs have on student success. The district currently utilizes both Curriculum Association iReady assessments as well as supports from NWEA. The task force reviewed resources for use at the middle school level. One of those resources is a Math 180 and Read 180 program, which aligns to our NWEA Measures of Academic Progress program. The district is considering a pilot of both programs for the 23-24 school year, and this was discussed at the committee. The committee supported this appearing under new business at the September 11th meeting, so it is on tonight's agenda. We'll be talking more about this later in the agenda. Finally, we had an update on safety and security. Mr. Wissink gave an overview on continuing efforts to ensure a safe and secure digital environment for our staff and students. New technologies have been implemented this summer that's added additional layers of security to our network. In addition, work continues at our high schools as part of the 2020 bond program. Dr. Slot mentioned the work here in this room, but many of our classrooms have received new updated classroom technology, network upgrades, and a refresh of our handheld radios in some of our buildings. The district is still waiting arrival of our teacher laptops. Those are due to be replaced, so we're hoping to receive those hopefully sometime this month. We had no consent agenda items. Our next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow evening at 4:30 at the administration building, and we adjourned at 5:45 p.m.
Thank you very much. Finance and Operations?
Finance and Operations has not met since our last meeting that was reported out at the board meeting, our last board meeting, but we are meeting on September 27th at 8 a.m. at the admin building.
Thank you very much. Communications, Marketing, and Legislative? Member Dodd?
Yes, I will take Amy's time and give two updates today. One will be our marketing communication update, and then also I attend the Oakland County Legislative Committee for Oakland County School Board, so I'll share a little bit about that. So first, our marketing communication committee meeting. The meeting was called to order. Wait, what day was it? Hold on, I'm going to tell you. August 15th. Called to order at 3:12. Members present were myself, Amy, Lindsay, Barb, Paul, and Kim. There were no public comments. Our regular agenda included community sponsorships. We talked about a plan put together by Barb and team, really to organize ourselves around community sponsorship. So we reviewed communications, a plan for communication. We talked about that the funds will cover school events like camps and senior lunches. Committee discussed how we would determine who would get these funds once they were raised, and that's an ongoing conversation. We also discussed including the Huron Valley Education Foundation in this work. Communications is going to move forward as planned, obviously with discussions with other stakeholders in the future. Next, we talked about just a general HVS communication update. Specifically, the things that we have available for families, kind of new this year: text messages, Spanish language communication, and push alerts. So if you haven't received any of those things or understand what they are, please get our app and turn on the push alerts. And also, when you registered for school, you should have registered for the text messages. So those are coming. Communication methods to parents district-wide was another thing we discussed. We're looking at, so each school has their own, and each classroom may have a way for the teachers to communicate with students. We're just evaluating what all of those are. So we're looking at what the platforms are that teachers, coaches, parents, and students are using. We're thinking of forming a committee to get feedback on those different tools, and we'll include community rec and ed in that as well. We discussed safety communication to families. Communication presented a letter and FAQ to the committee outlining the safety communication that will be available to families. Safety section will be added to the website with this information as well. We made a few suggestions, but agreed that it should be sent out sometime the first month of school. Also suggested communicating it via In the Loop with the Soup, which is a video segment that we do on Facebook for families. We talked about the 23-24 Board of Education calendar. We suggested that Heather come to our next meeting to show us the new Google Drive she's created to help keep us all organized with all of our information. And Paul discussed the transportation legislation on a state level. Seems to be moving forward, and that's a good thing. In other, we discussed the liaison letter to school. Tom already talked about that, so I will skip that. We talked also about an advertisement that's playing for 4 weeks at Imagine Third Theater in Heartland for HR to push human resources and working for the schools, enrolling in the schools, and also community rec and ed. We adjourned at 4:25, and our next meeting is this tomorrow, the 12th at 3 p.m. Okay, moving on. Now I'm used to being done then, but now I'm going to move on to the other thing. Last week on Wednesday night, I attended the Oakland County, and I pulled up the name of it because I hate using acronyms without telling you. The Oakland County Government Relations Committee, made up of one member from each of the school boards in Oakland County, to work together to advocate and share legislative priorities. We had a presentation from both the folks from the Michigan Association of School Boards, who work on legislative priorities, and as well as the Oakland County School Boards. The legislative priorities for 23-24 were shared, and for everyone's awareness, every 2 years, the Michigan Association of School Board asks members what they believe the legislative priorities should be for the upcoming legislative session. The following are the issues that were raised the most often and adopted by the MASB Board of Directors as the 23-24 priorities. And I did email these out to everyone so you can see this in a little bit more detail. Number one, increase mental health services and professionals in schools and provide adequate state resources for needed social emotional support. Number two, implement state-based programs and modify certification requirements to address teacher shortages and retain teachers. Number three, establish school safety funding as a permanent line item in the budget and available to all districts equitably. Number four, review and implement recommendations of the School Finance Research Collaborative to move toward more equitable funding for students. Number five, I think, they're not numbered, I'm just numbering them. Specify that school aid fund is only for pre-K to 12 grade public education in Michigan's Constitution. Also, oppose attempts to create private school voucher and tax credits. Number six, reduce the MIPSR's legacy cost burden on districts and continue to increase state support of paying down the debt to reach the target before 2038. Next, establish universal preschool for all 4-year-old children. Next, support legislation that will put public school academies and management companies on equal footing with traditional public schools on issues related to transparency, reporting, and treatment of employees. Finally, expand the federal free and reduced lunch and breakfast programs to all students, regardless of income status. So those are the legislative priorities, kind of the wish list from the school board. A lot of those take many, many, many years to accomplish and obviously change over time. Last year, you may know that free and reduced breakfast and lunch was a priority for the state of Michigan. We achieved that last year, so now those priorities have changed a little bit. In 2023, we had quite a few public acts that affect education. We went over those. I'll just real quickly go over those. The Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act impacted some things as it relates to school. The read by grade 3 and the repeal of the mandatory retention happened last year. We are now allowed to use sinking funds for school buses. Some changes to the sexual assault information bill. Merit pay for DPSCD, some income tax changes, right to work changes, prevailing wage changes, big changes to the Public Employee Relations Act. I'm not going to list all of them because it's quite a few. Training for mandatory reporters, changes in the student discipline, repealing the A through F ranking system, and paycheck deductions used in union dues. All of those were big things that changed last year. A lot of things changed for public education last year, and a lot of players at stake with that. So this team, we know, is up to date on all of that and helping us move forward. A couple of things that are coming that they wanted us to hear about. There's consideration that the session that's happening this fall may be cut short right around deer hunting day. In Michigan, we can only put that as a holiday. So this may be a very consolidated time period, and it's going to move really quickly. So there are a couple of bills that we're keeping an eye on. There's a clean drinking water access bill, reporting of public employee information. There's an interesting one about mandatory dental screenings for children entering kindergarten. And I know our school district is part of a group that is bringing dental care free of charge to our elementary schools. So there's a bit of back and forth on that. Right now, kindergarten is not mandatory, so there's talks about mandating kindergarten. And I'm not telling you whether we're opposed or anything. I'm just saying these are the things that we're doing. mandating a specific student counselor ratio in schools, career technical education millage used to contract with other ISDs for CTE programs. Another one talking about substitute teacher requirements, removing the ban on starting before Labor Day. And then a couple others from a different list. There is, and Amy, this is for you, talks about the dyslexia bill and the dyslexia education bill coming back with some revisions. Other information about opioids, codifying the universal meals in the school code. It's not there right now. Also some information about flavored tobacco bans. So lots of stuff going on that can impact our schools and our kids. We are lucky to be part of many organizations that keep their eyes on these and keep us updated. If you have questions, let me know. I'm happy to point you in the direction or give you a little bit more information that I have, and I'll keep these updated as we go on through the year.
Great, thank you very much, Vice President Dodd. I personally, on behalf of the rest of the board, appreciate your attendance and being an advocate for the rest of the board as it relates to these items. I know that there's a meeting coming up, I believe, in October that will continue this conversation, and I also want to invite and point out, and I'll send some information, but in January, we have the National School Board Association's Equity Symposium along with its advocacy conference that Member Dodd attended last year and presented quite an in-depth presentation to the board. Found it to be extraordinarily beneficial. I will send that information out. Maybe Heather could send that to all the rest of the board if you'd like to attend that in Washington, D.C. with Member Dodd in January. Work with Heather on that. And we find it to be very, very beneficial not only for the Huron Valley schools, but Oakland County and Michigan as a whole. And it really provides not only insight, but relationships are so important. And this really provides that opportunity for us to talk one-on-one with some of the people that are making those decisions. So thank you once again. Next on the agenda is public comments. Heather, do I have any public comments at this time? Consent agenda. We have 3 consent agenda items that are presented, A1 through A3. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda?
I make the motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 3 as presented.
All
Or
right.
do you want to start with just 1 as presented?
All right, thank you. A motion made by Member Dimick. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Grzymkowski. Any questions? Seeing none, could I have a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Dimick.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Ms. Dodd
Yes.
and Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, under unfinished business, this is information that we've had, was presented under new business at our last board meeting. It's Board Policy Updates, Exhibit B, which I believe is on communications. Dr. Salah?
Thank you. Yes, this is a second reading for board policy updates that Ms. Rothler presented. I don't believe we've had any questions from the board. If there are any questions this evening, Ms. Rothler's ready to answer those before we ask for approval.
Is there any questions? Yes. No questions? I see none. We've had these for the last couple weeks and have had that opportunity to ask any questions before us. With that, do I have a?
I'll just make a quick point.
Yes, please.
So just for the good of the group, these are very much semantic changes. So we approved all of these board policies about a year ago, and we work with an organization called Neola that helps us make sure we stay up to date with the laws and with changing trends. And really, this is just adding some semantic language and taking out some outdated language. Very simple, nothing really boat rocking, just updating language.
And as chairperson of the Communication, Marketing, and Legislation, your committee reviewed this in great detail
Yes,
and provided some input.
word by word.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you. Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve this board policy?
I'll move to approve the board policy as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Without objection, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Ms. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mr. Dimick
Yes.
and Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Prior to us going to new business, I'm going to recess for a couple of minutes so that we can update our technology, so that we can go back to our back-to-school video. And after that, then we'll go right into new business. So maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes? All right, thank you. We're going to go back to recognitions, Huron Valley highlights, back to school.
Now that you have all patiently waited for an hour, hopefully it lives up to its hype. All right, I'm ready when you guys are. Thank you. There you go. Thank you.
Very cool. It was worth the wait.
Thank you. So
It was worth the wait.
congratulations on the successful first week of school. No matter what chapter our students are entering this year, we want them to remember that we are all here to support them every step of the way. Thank you, and let's have a great year at HVS.
Great, thank you. The only comment I have to make is obviously Jeffrey had all smiles, so he must have been counting FTEs, and they were probably a little bit better than what he anticipated, because it's very unusual to see the assistant superintendent of business with smiles on his
Good
face. So, but I do appreciate that. And the other thing the comment that I made, at first I thought that Dr. Salah was the Oxbow Owl, but then I saw him out in front of the building greeting people. But I do appreciate everyone's participation. I know that you're out in the buildings greeting our students, and I will attest that they are just as excited this week as they were last week. So, I have a small sampling. Okay, maybe it's the parents that are more excited. I'm not sure, but they are very excited, and we do have a lot of students, and I know that our coach team is looking at class sizes and are working through that process. So I trust that process. So with that. Any other comments? Like I said, it was worth the wait. Thank you. Thank you, technology. New business. First item is Exhibit C, the 2023-24 Superintendent's Goal. Dr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to wait for that to come up on the screen. I want that still shot of Jeffrey, like the one next to the harbor sign. I want Jeffrey to sign it. I'm going to keep that one forever. That's pretty.
Autographed.
The autograph.
Sure. That's a great one.
A happy Jeffrey. That's a good thing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rose. So, as is customary, it is September, and I typically in September I introduce some goals for the Board of Education to consider as goals that not only serve as my goals, but they serve as direction and alignment for the district as a whole. And so I'd like to show this first slide for our Board of Education. What this walks through is essentially a flow chart for how the goal setting process for the superintendent is typically set. So in that first box, it basically describes that as superintendent, based upon my day-to-day, week-to-week, and now year-to-year leadership, I propose some options that the board might consider as important points or topics for us as a school district, and things that I need to accomplish so that our co-team will adopt goals that align with my goals that have been supported by the board, and then eventually our department heads and our building principals and so on and so forth. And so that's what that first box indicates there, is that superintendent proposes goals. The second box is what we're doing right now. I presented these goals to the executive committee to start. I typically do that. They provided me some feedback. I made some tweaks even from that conversation with the executive committee. Then I presented to the full board for consideration. And it's important to note that I'm not asking you to take action on these goals this evening. I'm simply asking you to hear the goals and then offer any feedback over the next couple of weeks, at which point I will be asking you for support of these goals, or the final version of these goals, on October 2nd. That third box speaks to once the board reviews and approves, then COAT will set their goals aligned with mine. And then once COAT establishes their goals, our department heads and our principals will establish their goals that are aligned with COAT goals. We move to implementation. Right around December, there will be a check-in. The board will give me some feedback as to whether or not I'm making progress towards accomplishing the goals. And that's all in preparation for my final evaluation. I think what's important for our listening audience to know, because I know the board knows this, is that this is a thoughtful process based upon key initiatives that we know we need to accomplish as a school district. Obviously, Strategic Plan 2.0 is a focus for us, and in the same way that feedback is important to everybody in this room when they do their jobs, it's important to me as well to know whether or not I'm making progress and or need to consider pushing the brakes on something or moving in a different direction altogether. That's why that December touch base in more of a formal way is helpful for me as a superintendent, so that I get feedback. Researchers tell us that the most important indicator or the most important research-based thing a teacher can do with their students is provide direct feedback on day-to-day instruction. Same is true for a superintendent and for our COAT team and so on and so forth. So that's what this flow chart is speaking to. So on to my actual goals. This image here is not something that is foreign to the school board or the district. We've been talking about this systems approach to successful school environments for a number of years now. And for those who are watching this perhaps at home who are unfamiliar with this graphic, just spend just a moment walking through what this indicates. Basically, in the same way that you have to, when you're climbing a flight of stairs, you have to climb one step at a time to get to the top. The same is true for successful school environments. And so what you see here in this graphic is the very first step is to ensure that the culture, the climate, the people, and the systems are in place. So our professional learning communities, where staff are meeting weekly, they're looking at data to help make informed decisions about teaching and learning. That is a critical system to us as a school district for us to be successful. The collaborative inquiry process, identifying a problem of practice, and whether we tackle that at the grade level or a building level or a district level, that is an important system to help us make decisions as a school district. Ensuring that we have consistent Tier 1 instruction in every classroom across the district. So if you're a third grade teacher at Highland Elementary School, you have the same resources, the same curriculum, the same tools as the first grade teachers at Country Oaks Elementary School. As a school system, we need consistency in practice to get consistent high achievement outcomes. The third stair step here is data points that drive our decision making. So in the absence of checking in and looking at our benchmark assessment data, our local common assessment data, our common formative feedback, our district developed common assessments, we would not really know whether or not we're making progress in the teaching of that Tier 1 instruction. And then the final step is the enriching and intervening. You heard me talk a little bit about the enriching side of that discussion today, and that's part of the focus of our strategic plan through enhancing some of our gifted and talented offerings. But you know, the intervening piece is our win time. It's using our best processes and our bit processes to make decisions about students that need additional support. So just a continued focus on this system to drive the decision making for the district from an instructional perspective. And if you go to the next page here, I specifically highlight in the red box that an intentional focus upon data collection and analysis. You know, coming out of the pandemic, we have just been retooling our systems and getting back to that second step of what is it we need all of our students to know and be able to do from a curriculum perspective. And because there were such learning gaps across the district with various students, it's taken us time to actually retool even that over the last couple of years. And now we feel like we're ready to really delve more deeply into this, the use of data to help us drive our decisions. Our TLT department has been really thoughtful as it relates to this work in particular. Oftentimes our TLT board subcommittee meetings, there's a data theme, I think you'll notice, in talking about benchmark data, comparing us against the national norms, comparing us against students within the district. And so that same process is going to continue, but going in much more depth and more intentionality this year. Last year, we ended the school year asking each of our buildings to do a data dive, and our TLT department, and I spent time at many of those meetings as well, walking through perception data, assessment data, local data, state data, to help us really get a sense of where we are at and what our building goals and district goals need to look like over the next school year. So moving on to goal number 2, that's really the instructional focus. And you'll certainly reference the mention of the strategic plan there as well. This is part of our strategic planning work. It's a big part of our strategic planning work through innovative programs. Second goal relates to business and operations, and it says that the Huron Valley Schools will build upon opportunities for operational efficiencies and revenue enhancements. And again, in bold, you'll notice the Strategic Plan 2.0 is obviously a major focus for us, and the recommendations that come from the committee, from myself, and from our business and operations team to the full board will be designed to help us pay for innovative programs, focus on students, and really realizing those operational efficiencies for the district. It all comes back to students. Goal number 3, just a continued focus on school safety and security. This isn't going away anytime soon. I feel really good about the structures that we have in place, but you can never rest on your laurels when it comes to school safety and security. While we have really good practices in place, and we've implemented some checks and balances through the school safety committee that's actually meeting here in the next week or so, as well as Recon Management coming in and giving us an annual review. We just need to continue to refine and retool school safety. We need to make some changes to the checklist that our building principals and our custodial staff are looking at on a monthly basis, and that our district team will be looking at on a biannual basis when we walk the buildings for safety reasons specifically. And then, of course, what's not on here is we really need to start thinking about the next bond proposal. I would anticipate that we will go out to the voters at a zero tax rate increase in 2025, and we will be looking at those safety and security aspects that we have not been able to do to date with the dollars and cents that we had. Frankly, we've been playing a lot of catch up because we hadn't passed a bond for 20 years. So we're catching up, and now we need to really continue to work towards bringing us to the next level. Goal number 4 deals with social emotional well-being. So a commitment here to the social emotional well-being of our students through providing ongoing professional learning for our staff. Not every staff member has the same knowledge and understanding of all aspects of characteristics that contribute to the social emotional well-being of students, and it's important for us to be mindful of that and to continue to meet the needs of our kids. And the way we do that is by having a staff that is engaged in learning, a staff that is engaged in understanding. There's a lot of terminology out there right now that's being used that I think, frankly, it's misrepresented as something that it's not even. Cultural proficiency is one of those things, and I'm just like, that's not a bad word. I think we just need to spend some time as a team really understanding what that means. It's not about indoctrination. It's just about having a base level understanding so that our staff don't feel like they're floundering out there and don't know what some of these terms mean. So that would be one example of that. Real focus on a system-wide approach to positive behavior intervention support. I really just applaud our team for the outstanding work that they've done as it relates to PBIS. But this year, I'm really excited about some of the retooling and systematizing of our PBIS focus from JK through 12. We recently hired a new behavior specialist who comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and expertise, and so taking that expertise that we have internally along with a new hire and melding the two is really exciting to me. Goal number 5, marketing and communications. This is really just about continuing to get us out there to tell the positive stories about the Huron Valley schools. There's so many wonderful things happening in this school district and this community, and I think those things need to be celebrated, and that's where we need to spend our time and our energy and our effort is celebrating our students. When there's things that we can get better at, we're the first to own it, and we need to do better when we need to do better, and we will. But this specifically, one of the focuses is on Strategic Plan 2.0. I've heard feedback over the years regarding the last time we went through building utilization examinations, and I just want to make sure that there doesn't appear to be any secrets, that this process is fully transparent. So part of this goal is just about that heightened level of transparency and putting all the information out there. So that's one of my goals. And then finally, attraction and recruitment. As I've mentioned early on, we've had some really, really good fortune and are very blessed as a school district to be a destination district. And I think that's evidenced by the number of hires we were able to do this summer. We still have one social work vacancy out there, but I know we're going to keep working at it and see what we can do. But I feel really good about where we're at in the big scheme of things. So this goal is really about a commitment to maintaining and improving on a multifaceted approach to attracting and retaining staff within the district. So, Mr. President, those are my goals. I'm happy to take questions now, or I'm happy to give the board an opportunity to digest this. I know for many of our board members, this is the first time that they are seeing this information, so I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And certainly I can summarize any questions that are asked of me and share responses either at the next board meeting or in writing to the entire board.
Thank you, Dr. Sly. I appreciate that. I think what we'll need to do is follow the same process as we follow in the past as it relates to any new business. If there are any questions as you review them, please pass them on to Dr. Salah, and then he will encapsulate them and share them with the rest of the Board of Education. At this point in time, I know that for some of you, as you mentioned, it was presented to exec. We had an opportunity to take a look at that, so we've gotten some kind of a head start as it relates to that and provided some input, which was more wordsmithing as opposed to any subsequent changes as it relates to that. Does anybody have any comments or questions to Dr. Slot at this point? Yes, Ms. Cotter?
Yeah, I just had a comment, actually, that Huron Valley, of course, we have functioned on goals for as long as I can remember, but reading this set of goals that we have here tonight certainly align with what we need to be doing here in Huron Valley. And that means if these are going to be Paul's goals, I like the way it's going to filter down to our administration, to our principals, and then it does go to the classroom. So the fact that everything is aligned and we're all working together, I think that's the strength of having this goal system. Looks good so far.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think not only are they Dr. Salah's goal, but as we look them over, review them, they truly become our goals as the Board of Education. And I feel comfortable that for me personally, they do follow what I truly believe are our core values and the things that we need to focus on as it relates to this. And I've enjoyed the maturation of the process with Dr. Salah over the 5 going on 6 years now that you've been with us, because it has followed the process, and the process, as you said, Member Cotter, really flows right through the heart of our organization and really embraces all the work that we do within the district. So I ask the board members to please read them over, continue to give it thoughtful attention. If you have any questions, please pass them on to Dr. Salah, and he'll work with you and work with the rest of the board. And the plan is to present this to the board at the next board meeting, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is Reading and Math Intervention Resources, Exhibit D. Dr. Salah.
Yes, I would invite Mr. Tavernier to speak to this one.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier in the TLT committee report, we are looking at resources for an MTSS pilot. So, as Ms. Dodd shared earlier, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, and it's really we talk about an umbrella of resources that are available to students that may be struggling with any concept, and it might be academic or behavioral in nature. But last year we had a MTSS task force really focusing at the secondary level to take a look at our academic interventions that we have available for students, particularly in the math and in the ELA area. And the reason for that was, we have a lot of systems across all of our buildings at the elementary level, but at the middle schools, we've taken, especially at the middle schools, a little bit different approach. And we have had some foundations classes for several years at the middle school level, and what we have found are those classes really help students in their academic performance while they have that additional support, but without those foundation classes, the students struggle. And so we wanted to look at something that really helped them sustain and build those foundational skills moving forward. So last year the committee was looking at a couple different resources, and we really want something that's research-based and is really proven to show results and success with remediation for students for long-term achievement, not just short-term gains. We're looking at a program called Math and Read 180. reason why we're looking at this program is twofold. One is we had a member of the task force that has used this product in another district and saw a lot of great results with it. The other thing is it aligns with our NWEA, the Measures of Academic Progress Assessment that many of our families are familiar with, and I know you're familiar with as well, as one of our benchmark assessments we use at the middle school. So Math and Read 180 align with the Measures of Academic Assessment, Progress Assessment, and we are looking at a pilot in a couple of our buildings next year. So one of our buildings is done a little bit different with their foundations classes. They have some block schedules with their seminar period, so they're looking at a different focus for this year, piloting focus for this year, but the other middle schools are looking at the Math and Read 180. We do have some 11T funds, grant funds available that'll support the resources needed. There's both print material and also digital licenses. There's an online component for this program for students. So we are asking at our next board meeting that the Board of Education would consider and approve the purchase of 120 licenses of both math and 120 licenses of the Read 180 program. Again, this also includes print materials and teacher resources for our foundations classes. And again, I did mention this is budgeted both within our grant fund and also our general fund within the department. Happy to answer any questions at this time. We'll be reviewing this again tomorrow at the TLT committee. We've made a couple adjustments since our last meeting, but definitely available to answer any questions that you may have before the next board meeting.
Does anybody have any questions at this time? Yes, Amy?
Just want to make sure I understand. So this is resources. I hesitate to call it curriculum, correct? It's supportive resources that you would be presenting in a foundations class or the seminar academic intervention block.
Correct.
For math and reading. And I'm assuming that it is administered by a TC potentially, or just by the seminar teacher or the foundations teacher?
Yeah, this would be really more of a tier 2 intervention. And so it would be a certified teacher in a foundations class that would be utilizing these resources with students. The nice thing about this program is it really individualized based on the students' NWEA results and targets where their area of need and focus is, and provides resources for them to really build those skills, those foundational skills that are identified gaps, and hopefully, we'll see that long-term academic achievement versus, sort of the short-term while support's available.
That's great. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Laura?
I just want to say you said two things that made me really happy. Number one, research-based and proven effective. Always, when we talk about this stuff, it's hard to know. Are we getting it on the front end where we're still figuring it out? Or has this curriculum or resource been around long enough that there's some good research? And I'm glad to hear that for this specific, I love being ahead of the curve and trying things, but I think for this specific group, having something that is research-based, proven effective, makes a lot of sense. And then also that we have some grant dollars that are supporting this is always great to hear. So all sounds good.
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Just in general about the TLT committee meetings that we have, Mr. Tavernier and his whole team has been very forward and forthcoming with that process with us. So I really appreciate that aspect of it and the way they walk us through the data, pointing out the benefits of these programs. And it does make it very helpful to me as a board member to make these decisions, to have that extra time with everybody. So I just want to say thank you, really.
Appreciate the comments. Anything else? I just have a couple. It's a pilot, and there's going to be two different types of resources that are available. Ultimately, do you feel, ultimately, we might find them both being successful, and we ultimately might say, we're going to go forward with both of them, because they really meet the same goal, but we have different types of cultures or different types of environments. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it is a possibility. One of the other resources we're looking at is the Curriculum Associates iReady resources that we use primarily at the elementary level. So we are evaluating that as well. But the for us to look at the one building. The cost was less right now, so, and it's still to be determined how that's going to fit into the schedule, because they are making some changes with the schedule in that seminar period. So we're still in the evaluation period of that, but this was something we wanted to look at for really as we get into the second quarter of the semester and have that available.
I appreciate that.
There are some upfront costs that are maybe a little bit more going long-term, so if this was something that we wanted to do beyond the pilot, there would be some annual costs with licenses, fees for the digital component, but the print material, of course, is that one-time
Well, I too
upfront
applaud
cost.
that. It's research-based, that we're ahead of the curve. That gives us an opportunity for the boots in the, on the ground are going to have an opportunity to work through this and explore what's in the best interest of our kids. And I really respect the comments that Jacob, you made regarding the TLT, because I had the opportunity to sit in as a sub the last time, and the conversation was very much in depth, and I appreciate and respect the fact that you listened to the committee members as we made a few recommendations, and you've presented that and incorporated it into that. As always, we have 2 weeks between, or 2 or 3 weeks, I guess, between now and our next board meeting. If you have any questions, Dr. Slah, funnel them through Dr. Slah, who then will funnel them to the appropriate administrator, and we can go forward with that. So, thank you once again. Any other final comments regarding this? Seeing none, we have 3 additional new business items that we'll be looking for motions. They're consistent with what we've done with other contracts in the past, in the sense that we've had opportunities to have discussions in closed session as it relates to parameters, and we've turned it over to our negotiating team, as we have with other contracts, to work through the process. And very happy to have 3 items in front of us tonight for further discussion and potentially a vote. So with that, Dr. Salah, the first one is HVESP, the Secretary's Contract, Exhibit E.
Thank you. I would invite Ms. Wenger or Mr. Van Gotham, or both of them, to speak to this one.
Thank you. So yes, our HVESP secretarial group recently ratified the tentative agreement that was reached during our negotiations. The details were shared in the board packet. All terms and conditions were negotiated within the board parameters. So just a quick summary of those terms. Duration, this would be a 2-year contract through June 30th, 2025. Financials include new wage scales for both years. These put us in a competitive space with our surrounding districts. We also agreed upon an increase in longevity amounts that applies to members hired prior to December of 2010. A criteria-based wage reopener in year 2, so 24-25. And then lastly, we agreed upon implementation of a sick day buyback program. This is not mandatory, it's optional. If members want to, at the end of the school year, apply for or put in for reimbursement for unused sick time, they're able to do so. There's certain requirements they have to meet, and it's very similar to the paraeducators group that we negotiated recently. All other provisions of the collective bargaining agreement would remain the same. Happy to take any questions from anybody.
Any questions? And this has been ratified by the Secretary's group already?
Correct.
Okay. Seeing no questions or comments, could I have a motion as it relates to this contract?
Sure, I'll move that the Board of Education approve the HVESP contract as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Member Dodd, seconded by Member Dimick. Could I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. Dimick?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Grisomkowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Wiseman?
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Next is Exhibit F, the co-contracts. That's the Central Office Administrative Team. Turn it over to Dr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're at the point, typically on an annual basis, I will bring COAT contracts and ask for consideration of an extension of the time period for COAT members. We wanted to wait until the other contracts were settled. And so we're at the point where I am recommending for approval that the central office administrator contracts, including salary and benefit modifications, continuation of standard language, and then parameters around the length of the contracts for Mr. Van Gotham and Mr. Tavernier, a 3-year contract, and for Ms. Wenger and Ms. Rothler, a 2-year contract, as was indicated in the August 31st memo to the Board of Education. I'm asking for your approval this evening so that Huron Valley can remain competitive and retain our outstanding administrative team.
Any questions, comments? Yes.
Just a comment. Our administrative team is doing a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, could I have a roll? Oh, I'm sorry. That's all right. You raised your hand at the last second.
So I just want to, I think one of the things we talked about when we were discussing this in closed session, and because it was closed session, it's not available to the public, but was very interesting to me, is that our central office administrative team is much smaller than other districts. Other districts have 5, 6, 7, 8 folks. And so I think making sure that these 4 people who work very hard to keep all the plates spinning and all of the things moving is important. Other districts do it with more. We do it with 4. I didn't mean to do that, but I did. And we're very fortunate to have this team do the dedicated work and really support the work that you're doing, and in turn, the district. So,
Thank you for your comments.
And we only have 4 chairs over here.
That's right. And who else has a member of the COAT team that smiles? And a finance guy at the same time, huh? So, no, I do appreciate the work that you do each and every day. You know, we have in numbers a very small group, but at the same time they hold the vision of the district in their palm of their hand and work collaboratively with everybody that's out in the field, and you have a direct effect on a positive fashion as it relates to what occurs in the classroom each and every day. So I, for one, respect the work and appreciate the work, and appreciate the work that you do each and every day on behalf of our students and community. So do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that we accept the COAT contracts as presented.
I have a motion made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Member Cotter, seconded by Member Grzymkowski. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure, Ms. Cotter is a outstanding yes. Mrs. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Dimick,
Yes.
Ms. Dodd,
yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is Superintendent's Contract Exhibit G. I'm not going to turn this over to Dr. Salah. I'm going to take care of this myself. In accordance with Dr. Salah's contract dated December 5th, 2022, which states in Section 8, Salary, the following. During the course of this contract, if the members of the Huron Valley Administrative Association receives an increase in wages greater than 3%, the parties, which is the Board of Education, agree that a reopener of this contract for the sole purpose of the superintendent wages will be triggered. This is in addition to the original contract that was approved earlier in the year by the Board of Education based on the evaluation that we did collectively and collaboratively of Dr. Salah. The Huron Valley Administrative Association's contract was approved on August 14th, 2023, which triggered the wage reopener for the superintendent's wages. It is recommended that the Board of Education amend Dr. Salah's compensation as presented by the memo that I presented to the board that was dated September 1st. The memo as it reads, please allow this memorandum to serve as confirmation in accordance with Dr. Salah's contract, which states in Section 8, Salary, the following. During the course of this contract, if the members of the Huron Valley Administration Association receives an increase in wages greater than 3%, the parties agree that the reopener of this contract for the sole purpose of the superintendent's wages will be triggered. That said, please review, as I stated in this memo, the updates to Dr. Salah's contract that is being presented to you at the present time. Wage increases, 1% salary increase for 23-24 school year. That would bring his salary increase from the current 3% increase to a 4%, which is in accordance with the contract. For July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. A retention incentive of 3% off schedule for the 23-24 school year. The payout is in December. and other financials increase the percentage of mileage and commensurate with other scheduled increases consistent with the administrative and code contracts with a wage reopener language consistent with the contracts in year 2. All other terms of the superintendent's contract and wages remain unchanged. If you have any questions, please contact me. I did not receive any feedback as it relates to this memo. And with this, I move that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's contract as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And I have second by Member Grzymkowski. Is there any comments or questions? Seeing none? Did you have, I'm sorry. Seeing none, could I have a roll call? I made the motion.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
And Ms. Cotter is a yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the new business before us. Public comments. Do I have any public comments on non-action items? Seeing none, good and welfare. Member Grzymkowski.
Yes, Ms. Pastana asked that I would let you know a little bit about Huron Valley Rec and Ed. They are offering Empower Hours at many of our schools, which is an hour before and an hour after. This may be a good alternative for some early morning and late afternoon childcare. So if you are interested, please check out Huron Valley Rec and Ed. It's on the website, and your kids can be involved in some really great programming. Take advantage. It's a great program.
Any other good and welfare? Laura?
I wasn't
I
sure
saw
if
it
you
this
saw me.
time.
I was moving around in front. So you talked at the beginning about the 9/11 Day of Service. I wanted to say a big thanks to our students at the International Academy West. Part of their curriculum is service, and so this day made perfect sense for them. We had a nice Facebook post about it, but I'm just going to say it out loud because it's really fantastic, the work they're doing. So the freshmen and sophomores got together, and they did 3 projects. They made cards for memory care residents at Sunrise Senior Living. They created goodie bags for kids at the Children's Center, and they made blankets for a holiday event that's happening later in the year where kids get to pick out a gift. So they made great use of this today, serving as excellent examples for our community about really caring for each other and being in service of each other. So I appreciate that from our students at IA West.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing. Yes. Jacob?
That, what Laura just described kind of ties in with, today was my first day teaching on 9/11, and I was struck with the idea, like, what should I discuss with the students? All of my students were born well after 2001. And what I decided to share was just the community, the way we all came together back then versus where we're at now, the division I see daily. So, I mean, if we could get any lesson from 2001 and bring it back, would be just to try to bring our community back together and a lot less infighting.
Good perspective. Anything else? I have a couple. While we talk about September 11th, I'm going to bring us back one day. September 10th, that was Grandparents' Day. And I do want to say thank you to all the grandparents out in our community. You are an integral part of making certain that our children, our kiddos, are ready to learn each and every day. You are valued, you are respected, and you bring a lot to the table. And we as a school district appreciate each and every one of you for what you do and how you help out in so many different ways, not only providing a unique perspective for our students, but to help out their helping out your kids as grandparents each and every day so that our kids are ready to learn. And I just want to recognize our grandparents out there because they are an important part of our community. And I guess I'm patting myself on the back too because I'm a grandparent myself. So, but I do want to recognize them. And the other thing, I do this occasionally because I like embarrassing, and it's a good embarrassment as it relates to certain board members. But I do want to recognize a parent who has a student athlete that is extraordinary, who really is an ambassador to our school district by participating in athletics. at Lakeland High School, and that's Pierce Grzykowski. And he and the team traveled to Willow Metro Parks for the Rambling Rock Invitational. And the team ran well, as many of the guys got personal bests, but I point out Pierce because he won his first ever cross-country invite by kicking out the competition to the finish line with a time of 15.58. And when I think about 5 kilometers, which is 3.1 miles, and to be able to do that in less than 16 minutes, it's pretty fast. And I could kick something out like that in 15, 16 minutes, but it would have to be about 2,000 kilometers as opposed to 5,000 kilometers. So on behalf of myself, and I'm sure the rest of the board, Amy, will you congratulate Pierce, not only for how fast he can run, because apparently his mom chased him around the house a lot, right? But also the work that he does and how well he represents our Huron Valley School District. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any other good and welfare? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is that we're going to go in closed session for the purpose of negotiations. We will go into closed session, and we will adjourn closed session when we are completed with the conversation regarding negotiations. That is the only item that we will discuss. And once we go out of closed session, we will re-adjourn into open session. There will not be any activity or any votes, and we will close immediately thereafter. So I need to have a roll call as it relates to going into closed session. Member Cotter, could you start us with a roll call?
Do we need to make a motion first?
Yes, could we have a motion first?
I
Thank
move
you.
that we go into closed session for the purposes of discussing contract negotiations.
Thank you, Laura. Do I have a
Second. I'll second.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. All right. With a motion and a second, now we can have a roll call.
Yes, we can. Mrs. Dodd
Yes.
and Mrs. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mr. Dimick
Yes.
and Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate it.
So how do you handle this? Do I text you what happened?